back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be doing a video with our good buddy Aaron McDaris, who's in here, and we're going to talk all about his Sonny Osborne Chief Banjo, the Rocky Top. It's going to be awesome. Stick around. It's going to be a good time. Thank y'all for joining us again. So glad to have you in here. We're going to be just talking about some banjos here today. Before we get into all that kind of fun stuff, I do want to encourage you to please like and subscribe to the channel. Have you done that yet, Aaron? Have you even?
Well, of course.
You have not. You haven't even gone to the channel. You don't care.
What is this place again?
Who is this? What am I doing? Anyway, well, it's been a whole bunch of fun. We've been here laughing with Aaron all day today, and we're going to talk about your banjo right now, which is kind of interesting piece here. Not everybody understands there was a whole line of banjos called the Chief.
The Osborne Chief.
The Osborne Chief.
Yep.
There you go. And those were a kind of collaboration between Sonny Osborne and Frank Neat, who built some of what people consider to be like the most iconic necks, especially, but banjo parts in general. I was so many people that I knew that were playing pro banjos are like, Frank Neat, that's the only neck you need to know. And then, of course, having Sonny tied into it. Now, you have a more unique version of this because those of you who don't know, Aaron had, and again, extremely jealous of this, I'm a huge Osborne Brothers fan. This was the stuff that for me and my brothers got us into bluegrass. We tried to understand the harmony lines of the Osbornes. They were one of the ones that did a unique stacking of harmonies that nobody else had done before, came up with material, and then we're also pioneers in this really crazy world of country and bluegrass at the same time. And we can go down this rabbit hole. I want to go down it just for a little bit, is recognizing that these guys truly were innovators in the music industry. And as much as nowadays everybody considers them this ultra-traditional band, the Osborne Brothers went and broke every rule.
They did, and they were a product in that time period of in the same mold that a lot of bands were having to do at the time, which was compete with the Beatles. When that music came out.
He said that music.
What's a better way to put it?
Oh, rock and roll.
Rock and roll
came out and changed the world.
It did.
Both in the country vein, and I mean, you have to also take into account that you had to respect groups like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, who were also huge bluegrass fans.
Yeah.
These guys were, and if you go study any major documentary on the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and bands from that era, they were Monroe fans. They loved bands that were, these original bluegrass cuts.
Yeah.
But then the music changed, and so did the fan base.
Yeah, and it became so popular that it almost knocked out or wiped out the acoustic country and bluegrass genre. I mean, I don't know that it knocked them out, but most of those older generation guys would, and I've heard them say, they had to do something to compete with that to get the young kids, So they did that. They recorded with drums and steel guitar and electric guitar and pianos, and just made some of the best music that our genre has ever seen.
Restacking of harmonies, which was really great. You had Bobby Osborne, who had this just high soaring tenor voice that just it would hit you right in the face, and then they'd move up, and Sonny would take the lead, and Bobby'd move, or they did a high lead with a low stack. I mean, so many cool different things that they were playing with, vocal changes. Also loved the fact that, again, got tied in with a very interesting country market. They were touring heavily with groups like Merle Haggard.
Doing package shows,
and just kind of setting the world on fire. Then became the Rocky Top hits, Tennessee Hound Dog. I mean, they were knocking country hits one right after the other.
They won Vocal Group of the Year at CMA in 1971. So they were really, really pushing a lot of limits, but at the same time, kind of staying with it. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
It was a traditional music that had its own new flavor, new appeal to a whole new crowd, and I think that was what kind of set them apart. Very, very cool. So there's a little story on that. That said, grew up being the biggest fans. We played with Bobby and Sonny almost every weekend, at least 2 or 3 times, and I got to know them pretty well, but nowhere near what this guy did. Him and Sonny got to hanging out quite often, and you can tell us a little bit more of that and how you kind of got connected with Sonny.
Yeah, so I met Sonny first through the Larry Stevenson band when I was playing with Larry, and bought a band. Ended up buying a Chief banjo off of him because at the time I was playing not so good quality instruments, and so Sonny was very at the Opry one night when we played backstage. I remember he said, "Well, hey," he said, "I have a Chief that I'm thinking about selling. If you want it, you can take it and play it and see if you like it." And so I ended up taking it, and I ended up buying it, and I don't have that banjo anymore. I know the boy that's got it, but very good quality instrument. Probably one of the better banjos I ever owned. Then through the years, we just got to spending more time together, I guess, either at festivals or sometimes I would go help him do yard work. And at one particular moment, he told me to come in after I was done weed eating his yard, and he wanted to show me something. Well, went in there, and it was the 3, the Rocky Top banjo, the original 5-string flathead. And he said, if you want to play this banjo, I'd like for you to take it out on the road with you. And at this time, I was playing with Rhonda Vincent, and I was like, sure, I'd love to. So through that, I carried that banjo on the road for probably a year before I actually decided to buy that banjo from Sonny.
That's pretty awesome.
So yeah, our relationship just stemmed around mostly sitting and talking either banjos or just I would sit and love to hear him tell stories about the Opry days or just any of the stories, road stories, because we all been on the road, that some crazy things happen, and he had several of them. And so I would just sit So I would just sit and listen in awe of just, all the cool things that he saw in his growing up days, like, the things that we saw in our teenage and early 20s, he had stories from that back in the golden era of music.
Yeah,
so it was really cool.
Again, the coolest thing about the fact that is, like you said, they had stories like every other major band and every major, but it was beyond that because those guys were moving into a music icon status and not just in bluegrass music. This was these were becoming country music legends. I mean, to this day, Rocky Top, one of the top selling cuts of all time.
Yeah.
It's, everybody knows that and they know that version of it.
Don't think you can go anywhere in the world and say the song Rocky Top that somebody doesn't know it.
Absolutely.
In that group.
Especially if you're from Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's the official state song.
Right.
So those guys it was fun. I again got to do it. I got to know Bobby a little bit more, being that we talk about singing and all that, and they were always so kind to me. I didn't know much about banjo, so Sonny didn't want to talk to me. Who are you, kid? Get. That's what he said. He never said that. He was actually he would have. He was actually always really kind to us, and the music obviously stemmed out. So again, there is a definite jealousy factor for me of not getting to hear quite all those stories, but I got to hear my own. So there you go. And that leads us to your. You ended up, like you said, purchasing the Rocky Top banjo, the banjo that was cut, that was used to cut the original Rocky Top. You own that. You've been playing it. You've been hanging out with Sonny. Then how's this come into fruition?
So after I bought the banjo from him, of course, we travel all different kinds of circumstances sometimes. When we fly, nobody ever carries a pre-war vintage instrument onto a plane unless they bought a ticket or a seat for it. Oh, did you really?
I'll tell you that story
Well, you're
later.
more brave.
It was. I only did it one time when there was something really bad
Sonny,
happened, and that lesson was learned.
Sonny actually told me if he ever flew with it, he just bought a seat for it. He paid a ticket for it, put it up there, and put a seatbelt around it.
Sure.
So, but anyway, he asked me what I was playing, and I just had maybe one of the original banjos that I had when I was a kid playing. So he said, "Well, I'd like you to play Chief if you want to." And I said, "Sure, I'd be glad to." So anyway, we come up with the idea. I said, "Well, just make it just like the 3." And I said, "You know what? We could probably just call it the Rocky Top model. It'd be fine with me." And so he said, "Well, it makes sense, And so that's how this particular banjo became. And this was the first one out. It's number 1. So
there you go.
Yeah, pretty unique. to that.
Originally, I think most of, and we were discussing this a little bit earlier, I think most of the original Chief banjos were built to be closer to his Granada,
Yep.
which was what was synonymous, eventually became his final, this is my banjo, this is my sound. He went through quite a few different ones. There was a Vega, there was a Sonny 6.
Experimented a lot with that 6-string.
Coming with some new styles and stuff. But in the end, it ended up with him with a particular Granada banjo that was his sound. But always still harken back to that 3 that you had, which is pretty cool. So the Chief banjos, there's a few different iterations of them. Now, one thing I noticed with this one, you do have the speed neck. Was that a you or a Sonny idea? Where are they all done that way? Your original one still has its finish.
Yeah,
on
it
correct?
does. It does. I think they just this was
Did
kind of
this.
part of their process
That's what
for
I
the
thought too. I remember seeing quite a few of those.
'Cause
I
I
think
don't-
this was one of the very first banjo series that was coming out that automatically had a plain or speed neck on it. So again, anything in particular that you know about this banjo that makes it a little bit more unique, different, other than just building it to be almost exactly like
This
your
has a
RP3?
so one of the different things that he did with this banjo was Blaylock it's got a Blaylock ring in it, and he was trying to do something different. And it's been so long since I can't remember exactly. It has something to do with the way the tone ring angles up at the top where the head sets on it. It was just a sort of a different style, and this was one of the first banjos that he used it in. So that's kind of a unique to this particular instrument.
Good, and I think every single one of the Chief banjos at that time also was sold through Sonny. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
Yeah, everything. Yeah, Sonny. The reason he did it was he kind of got tired of having to deal with
Companies
and so
stores
he
like us.
made it basically a good quality banjo that you could personally buy from him, and he would actually sometimes drive to your house and bring it. Which was kind of a cool thing.
Oh, absolutely.
For anybody that
I'd have probably bought one. Just
Sure.
Make him drive all the way out
Yeah.
here. He'd have done it.
I don't know that he always done that, but he
I'm just
would
kidding.
if it yeah.
He probably
But he
would.
wanted to see good quality instruments in people's hands.
Absolutely. So, super cool deal. Like I said, I cannot imagine a more cool situation than working with Sonny on a project banjo, and that's so cool that you still have it around, and then have the idea of having a secondary variation of the your ultimate banjo. Because I've been around you long enough, you kind of feel like for you. That has now become synonymous with Aaron McDaris. That RB3 is you. Even though it started with Sonny, this is you.
Well, yes, and the weird thing about it is, I used to always look and play other banjos and go, every time I was at a place where there were selling banjos, I would go play them, pick them up. I rarely ever do that anymore, just simply for the fact that I know I'm not going to buy another banjo. Like that's the one that I'm going to always have and play. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about other banjos. It's just the fact that I found that one. I just quit looking at.
I think we all kind of get to that point.
Yeah.
For me and my 18, that's me. That's who I. Yeah. Now I still look at. Now I'm not quite at the point. I always look at. I mean, that's my job. I look at guitars all the time, and I keep on finding other unique characteristics. But in the end, we all are striving to find that one instrument that really says. This is who I am. This is my my sound. This is my feel. And when I play it, this is truly who I am.
That's right. And unlike there are some of the greats who could just pick up any banjo or any instrument and they made it sound almost identical to the one they played all the time. It's harder for some people to do that, but. That particular banjo, for me, that is what I felt like fit me, and I loved it so much. I just love playing it on stage. It performs, does everything that I ask it to do, and
that's great.
Sometimes I give out before it does, and it will never give out. But
you bring up that idea of the players that can make anything, and I think that was true of any. We hear that comment a lot of times on this channel is well, whatever you play, it sounds and I think players all learn how to get the most out of generic instruments, whatever it happens to be, and I don't mean generic like as in generic, but I mean and overall, this is what I play, this is my style. I've listened to you play other banjos. You guys have seen it on our channel now. Aaron makes all the banjos sound great. It absolutely does. And I think even those ones that we looked at, the iconic players, the JDs, the Earls, and all that kind of stuff, there was still the one.
Yeah.
There was always the one, right? The one that absolutely made them feel like as a player they were doing everything they wanted, and the sound always came into that. And I don't care who that iconic player was, they always had the one.
Yeah, and that's true. Your instrument does become synonymous with your personality, and you show up at a show. I mean, now a lot of people that are aware that I have that banjo, they always come up and ask, "Is that the Rocky Top?" They either want to see it or touch it or play it.
Absolutely.
So that.
By the way, he hands it out to anybody who wants to play it. Anybody that, if you feel like just doing it, go ahead, just take it.
Well, I try to be very careful, but
he needs to be careful.
Yeah.
Don't expect him just to hand you his banjo. He wouldn't let me touch it. I'll just let you know that.
No, it's most people. You could tell if there was somebody that I wouldn't feel comfortable letting it in their hands, But most of the time, it's always a very, Now, Sonny always told me, said, especially before I had it paid for, he was like, "Don't let anybody touch that banjo. That's in your hands and your hands only, And so I was very, very cautious about that, whenever.
Man, I can't wait till I start working on it. It's going to be great. You're gonna love how that thing sounds after I get done with it.
And that's another thing. It's hard to find. I mean, there's only one person that really does any of my work setup stuff, and that's Charlie Cushman with that banjo. Because you can't. It's just. And me and Zach were talking about this the other day. He just bought a 39 herringbone, and it's just not just anybody that you can lend an instrument to work on. You either want to usually be there, watch them work while you're at it, or you have to trust them very, very, very sincerely.
Well, and again, I think this comes back to what we just said. For every major iconic musician in the world, I think they're always looking for the one thing, the one that actually hits them and makes it. I think you found it in your banjo. I found it in my guitar. You got your Tony Rice. You have the J.D. Crows. Bobby Osborne had two Lloyd Lors. Those were his. Sonny had his Granada. I think everybody has the iconic instrument that fits them. And from then on, it is them, and they need to take care of it, make sure it is always in the shape that they want it to be. So, again, best of luck. I think that kind of brings us to our last deal here is best of luck finding your ultimate instrument. And it's going to be a journey. I don't care who you are.
That's right.
We've all gone through that journey. We
have
find one thing, and then we find something else. And, eventually, if we do find it, it's the end, but there's always some more cool things to kind of play with. So,
that's right. That's right.
Anyway, Aaron, I am so glad you got to come back here and hang out. I'm glad you got to show us this banjo.
Thanks for having me.
And talk a little bit about what's cool about it. If you guys have any questions or comments about the Chief Banjo or the Rocky Top version of it, as well as his other one, put it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys there. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks again, Aaron.
You bet.
Well, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a whole bunch of fun talking to Aaron about this cool banjo. If you enjoyed that, we actually shot another one when Aaron was in here a while back, which is on the actual original Rocky Top banjo, the one that we referenced quite a bit in this video. And you can check out a link to that right here. It's going to be right in the middle of your screen. Check that out. Click on it because there's some really cool, interesting facts with that one too. And again, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next time.